Imagine, for just a second, that you are holding a single lit candle.
Okay.
And now imagine you're trying to keep that little candle burning while standing directly in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane.
Oh, wow. That sounds impossible.
Right. But that feeling, that desperate, just exhausting attempt to protect something vital while this massive chaotic force tries to blow it out, that is exactly what it feels like to be a social impact organization in the modern digital media landscape today.
I mean, that is a phenomenal analogy, honestly,
Yeah.
because, the hurricane isn't malicious necessarily.
No, it's just doing its thing.
Exactly. It's just completely indifferent. The modern digital ecosystem is this indifferent storm of algorithms and notifications and these endless outrage cycles.
And viral trends that change every 5 minutes.
Right. So if you are trying to share a message of genuine social impact in the middle of all that, well, you're just going to get completely swallowed up.
So welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we are looking directly into the eye of that storm.
We really are.
Our mission today is to explore the intersection of human-centered storytelling, social impact, and emotional resilience, especially in an age where digital burnout isn't just some buzzword, right? It is a documented global epidemic.
It totally is.
So we are putting a massive spotlight on a newly launched media platform called Soar to Live. And we're also going to look at the absolutely fascinating, highly unconventional journey of its founder and creative director, Simon Sundaraj-Kuhn.
And just to, really unpack how this platform operates, we've pulled together a deeply comprehensive stack of sources for you today.
Yeah, we have a ton of material to go through.
We do. We are looking at Simon's extensive professional CV spanning decades. We've got detailed project briefs, strategic pathways documents that outline the actual methodology behind Soar to Live.
And the awards, right?
The awards are wild. Press releases for major awards ranging from the United Nations to the European Investment Bank. Plus this vast collection of personal LinkedIn recommendations from colleagues across the globe.
But, before we really get into the mechanics of all that, I want to establish some ground rules for you, the listener.
Good call. Set the stage.
Because today, we are actively cutting through the typical startup guru noise.
Thank goodness.
Right. We are skipping the fake hustle culture motivational energy, and we are absolutely bypassing the breathless, excessive AI hype that is just clogging up everyone's feeds right now.
Yeah, we're aiming for something much more grounded.
Exactly. This deep dive is tailor-made for you. Whether you're an NGO leader, a grassroots change maker, a founder, or honestly just someone who feels deeply overwhelmed by modern media and is looking for practical, emotionally intelligent solutions.
Because we are going to explore what we are calling the visibility crisis.
The visibility crisis. Okay, let's unpack that. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, if we look at the Sort of Life Visions document, it outlines this really profound paradox in our current society. On one side of the equation, you have modern audiences who are completely exhausted.
Yeah.
I mean, the average person is bombarded by thousands of extractive media messages a day.
Extractive meaning.
Meaning content designed solely to hijack their attention, trigger a quick emotional reaction, and then sell their data.
Oh, yeah. We are all feeling that.
Right, we are burned out, we are disconnected. But then, on the exact opposite side of the equation, you have these incredible NGOs, social enterprises, and founders who are doing literally life-changing, community-saving work.
But nobody knows about them.
Exactly. Because they don't know how to play the algorithm game, or because they just refuse to cheapen their message to make it go viral, they are completely lost in the noise.
Which is really the core of the crisis. Because the old mentality in the nonprofit sector used to be, if you build it, they will come.
Right. If your cause is righteous enough,
Yeah.
people will naturally pay attention.
But that is completely dead. I mean, grassroots organizations are usually operating on shoestring budgets. The staff is completely overworked. They simply lack the capacity for high-level, sophisticated digital strategy. So we end up with this tragic gap where the people doing the absolute most good in the world have the absolute smallest megaphones.
It's heartbreaking when you think about it. The cure to a massive social ill could be sitting right in front of us.
But because the founder doesn't want to do a trending dance on a social video platform, nobody knows it exists.
Exactly. But here's where, my skepticism kind of kicks in.
Hit me.
If audiences are already so burned out by their feeds and so exhausted by media, why is the solution to create more media? I mean, isn't that just throwing another cup of water into a flooded house?
It's the most logical question to ask, but the distinction Simon makes in his strategic framework is crucial here. The answer isn't creating more media. The answer is creating different media.
Different media, okay.
We have to understand the fundamental mechanics of what we are consuming. Right now, like you said, 99% of what we see is extractive media, engineered by thousands of servers to steal your attention.
It leaves you feeling completely hollow.
Like eating a giant bag of potato chips for dinner. You consumed a lot, but you were completely malnourished.
Precisely. So what Soar is proposing is a hard pivot to purpose-driven media.
And that's designed to do what exactly?
Purpose-driven media is fundamentally designed to deposit value into the viewer. It's designed to create empathy, to educate, to offer a solution, and to foster an actual long-term connection.
It actually respects the viewer's time.
Yes, it respects their time and their intellect.
And if you look at the demographic trends in the source material, this isn't just like wishful thinking. This is a market reality right now.
Oh, especially with younger generations.
Yeah, look at Gen Z and the generations coming up behind them. They have the most highly tuned radar for corporate nonsense in human history.
Oh, they can spot it a mile away.
They can. They are actively, sometimes aggressively, rejecting highly polished corporate buzzword marketing. They don't want to be talked at.
Right. They want the raw, unpolished, authentic reality of a human being actually trying to solve a problem.
They want to see the struggle, the process, the real impact. And, to understand how you actually architect that kind of authentic media ecosystem, we really have to look at the architect himself.
Simon.
Yeah, because Simon Sundaraj Kuhn's background is, well, it completely defies the conventional tech founder trajectory.
It really does. I mean, if you look at the typical Silicon Valley founder, they usually go from a computer science degree straight to an incubator to venture capital.
And they view human beings as just users on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. But Simon's background reads less like a tech resume and much more like a field manual for human emotional intelligence.
Okay, let's go all the way back to his pre-tech era.
Let's do it.
From 1995 to 2022, so a massive chunk of time, he ran a freelance photography service. And he was doing this across London, the United States, and Malaysia.
But he wasn't just doing corporate headshots or whatever?
No, not at all. He was shooting editorial guidebooks, wildlife, weddings, and funerals.
I want to pause right there, actually, because the mechanics of that are profoundly important.
The funeral photography.
Yeah. Think about what is actually required of a photographer at a funeral, or even a wedding. You are being invited into the absolute highest peaks of human joy and the deepest, most devastating valleys of human grief.
You are capturing humanity at its most raw and unfiltered state.
And you have to navigate it flawlessly.
Yeah.
I mean, a funeral photographer has to possess an extreme level of emotional intelligence.
Because you can't be in the way.
Right. You have to know how to be completely invisible while simultaneously anticipating human behavior. You have to read body language. You have to understand really complex family dynamics in an instant.
And capture authentic emotion without ever being intrusive.
Exactly. You're literally training your brain to observe the hidden narratives of human connection.
That is such a wild yet perfect training ground for understanding what people actually care about, but it goes even deeper. Because parallel to that, from 2005 to 2020, he founded and ran a research proprietor business.
Doing what?
He provided genealogy services and actively worked on locating lost loved ones.
Oh, wow. Which is just another huge layer of deep investigative empathy.
Because genealogy isn't just like looking at dusty census records.
No, it's dealing with fractured family histories. It's dealing with generational trauma, with deep family secrets, and with that desperate human need to know where we come from and who we belong to.
And if that wasn't enough to build an empathy framework, let's add the geopolitical layer to the mix.
Right, the OSINT work.
Yeah. From 2007 to 2022, he was the founder and CEO of an OSINT, which is Open Science Intelligence Geostrategic Consultancy.
And for those who aren't familiar with the term, OSINT is the practice of collecting and analyzing information from publicly available sources to answer specific intelligence questions, right?
Exactly. So he is analyzing geopolitical trends, doing strategic forecasting, and handling high-level crisis management.
So think about the through line here. What connects the macro-level analysis of a geopolitical crisis with the micro-level emotion of a funeral? Or the historical investigation of finding a lost relative?
It's the ability to find the truth in the noise.
Exactly. It is the obsessive pursuit of the hidden human narrative. Every single one of those roles requires a person to look past the official, polished surface.
Yeah, an OSINT analyst knows that the official state press release is often a lie, right? They have to look at satellite imagery and local social media to find out what is actually happening on the ground to real people.
And a genealogist looks past the official family lore to find the actual records. A photographer looks past the posed, fake smile to capture the micro-expression of genuine love or sorrow.
I love how grounded this is. It proves that Simon didn't learn about human behavior by, running A/B tests on a landing page to see which button color gets more clicks.
No, not at all.
He learned about human behavior by being physically present in the messiness of real life, and we see this in his volunteering too.
You did a lot of grassroots stuff, right?
Yeah, he was a group leader doing grassroots work in Philadelphia. He spent time on site at the Passamaquoddy Reservation in Maine.
Interesting.
And back in 2012, he even created a broadcasting system for Eurasians in Penang for UNESCO.
Which just demonstrates this really long-standing commitment to giving marginalized or overlooked communities a voice.
Definitely.
And when you spend decades observing humanity like this, from the intensely intimate to the globally strategic, you strip away the performative layers of communication. You learn very quickly what is authentic and what is just noise.
And if you are going to pivot into building large-scale, tech-enabled social impact tools, that deep, grounded empathy isn't just a nice bonus to have.
It is the fundamental requirement.
Which leads us to a massive shift in his career, his work with Spring ACT.
Spring ACT, which stands for Action, Compassion, Technology.
This is really the crucible where we see Simon take all of that deep analog human observation and apply it to scalable digital technology.
And the sheer scope of his involvement at Spring ACT is honestly staggering. When you look at the sources, he wore an incredible number of hats simultaneously.
Let's run through them.
He is a collaborator manager, the ISO coordinator, the business development manager, the fundraiser manager.
And crucially, the well-being officer.
Yes, the well-being officer. He was coordinating over 100 volunteers globally. He was supervising interns, and that internship program was so successful, it actually won the London School of Economics Volunteer Organization Award and the LSE Employer Award.
So he was basically the operational engine room for this entire organization.
He really was. He was interviewing, recruiting, and onboarding new employees, translators, and testers. He was handling complex liaisons with the Roche Philanthropy Group.
Dealing with the dense legal frameworks for AI policy, too.
Yes, managing all those collaborative partnerships. But the project that truly illustrates this intersection of high-tech and deep empathy is his support of the Sophia chatbot team.
Okay, we really need to break down what Sophia is, because when people hear chatbot, they think of the really annoying thing that pops up when you're trying to return a pair of shoes online.
Right, a customer service bot telling you what time a store opens.
Exactly. This is not that.
Not at all. Sophia is a groundbreaking, globally recognized tool. It is the world's first 247 global AI chatbot, specifically designed to assist domestic violence survivors.
Let's walk through the mechanics of why this is so revolutionary for a survivor.
Please do.
Imagine you are in an incredibly dangerous, abusive situation. You are terrified, you're isolated, and you desperately need to gather evidence or understand your legal rights.
Okay.
But you can't just pick up the phone and call a human on a hotline because your abuser might be in the exact next room.
Right.
And you can't just Google resources because your digital devices might be monitored.
The psychological and physical barriers to getting help in that scenario are just immense. The shame, the fear, the surveillance.
So what Sophia does is bypass all of that completely. It allows a survivor to interact with an AI to securely gather potential evidence, find safe options, and understand their rights.
And it operates completely anonymously, right?
Yes, anonymously across multiple languages. And fundamentally, it is designed to leave zero digital trace on the survivor's device.
That is just incredible. And the recognition for this technology is unbelievable, too. I mean, the team won the Future Swiss Award in 2022, which was literally recognized by the president of Switzerland.
Wow.
They won the Innovation in Politics Award in 2023, the European Investment Bank's Social Innovation Tournament General category first place.
And didn't they just win something for 2025?
Yes, the 2025 AI for Good Impact Award in the pro bono category, which was co-developed with Tech to the Rescue, and they partnered with Ada and Microsoft Azure for that.
But look at the paradox sitting right at the center of this achievement. Because in the broader cultural conversation right now, artificial intelligence is constantly vilified.
Oh, constantly.
It is described as cold, algorithmic, detached, and basically a threat to humanity.
Yet here, in this specific application, AI is being utilized to provide the most vital, judgment-free empathy and safety for a human being
Mm.
in the absolute most vulnerable crisis imaginable.
It's incredible to think about. And AI doesn't judge you. It doesn't get shocked by the horrific things you have to tell it. It doesn't need to sleep, and it doesn't suffer from compassion fatigue.
Which is huge.
For a survivor who is paralyzed by the shame of explaining their situation to a human being, a perfectly secure, infinitely patient machine is actually the ultimate empathetic first responder.
Exactly. It is a flawless example of technology acting as an enabler for human survival, rather than a product designed to just extract data from it.
But, dealing with that level of heavy trauma-adjacent work on a global scale raises a massive question for me.
Which is,
How do the humans behind the tech survive it?
yeah.
Because we see this constantly in the NGO and social impact space.
Yeah.
The founders and the volunteers are so deeply driven by the mission that they basically work themselves into a state of total physical and emotional collapse.
Burnout is incredibly high in that sector.
Right. So with Simon managing 100 people, dealing with Microsoft Azure, navigating complex ISO certifications, how did he not just turn into a burned out corporate machine?
This is where that specific title we mentioned earlier, Wellbeing Officer, becomes the absolute linchpin of the whole operation.
Tell me more about that.
Because Simon didn't just scale the technology, right? He actively scaled the human support system required to sustain that technology.
Explain how that works in practice. Because I'll be honest, well-being officer can sometimes sound like the person who just orders pizza for the office on a Friday.
Right. Or the person who schedules a mandatory 15-minute mindfulness Zoom call.
Exactly. It can be a very hollow title.
It can be a hollow title in corporate environments. But in a high-stakes, trauma-informed NGO, it is literally a matter of organizational survival.
Okay, so what did he do differently?
Simon purposefully integrated mental health support, resilience strategies, and team culture directly into the operational framework. When you are coordinating volunteers across the globe who are dealing with domestic violence resources day in and day out.
They're absorbing all that trauma.
Exactly. They are absorbing massive amounts of secondary trauma. If you don't build a strong hearts and minds infrastructure to support their psychological well-being, your organization will fracture.
You basically can't build empathetic AI if the humans building it are completely broken.
That is perfectly stated. The technology is entirely dependent on the resilience of the ecosystem that is building it.
And it seems like that specific realization that you have to focus on the health of the entire ecosystem, not just the end product, is what propelled Simon into his incredibly diverse range of advisory roles.
Oh, absolutely. Because when we look at his concurrent projects, the versatility is just mind-bending.
It is a masterclass in applying adaptive thinking across entirely different sectors.
Let's run through just a few of them because the list is long.
Yeah, take a project called Comeback Cat Z.
What is that one?
This is a gamified tech project aimed at fighting imposter syndrome and sexism.
Okay, wow.
Simon served as the lead coordinator, the AI content artist for communication, and the fundraiser. He was using AI-generated visual storytelling to create engaging assets that promote actual behavioral change and self-confidence.
And didn't he also support the digital safe team there?
Yes, he did. And that team actually won the Changemaker Award.
Amazing. And then you pivot from that to his work in publishing and academia.
Right.
He is currently a newsroom editor at the New Global Order, or TNGO. He acts as a reviewer for the African Online Publishing Library.
What's he reviewing there?
He's actively reviewing complex academic journals and doctoral research. And he was previously an editor for research and articles for the ATLA's project.
And then you look at his current advisories, which literally span the globe.
Seriously.
He is an advisor to Soil Solutions Ghana for their Pharmacist AI, which is using machine learning for regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
He is advising HIPMA. He advises Gada Info, which is this really important offline data collection platform crucial for NGOs working in remote, disconnected areas.
Because they don't have stable internet, right?
Exactly. He advises a creative venture called Hazy Dreams, and he is a representative for the Malaysian Dutch Descendants Project, or MDDP.
It sounds chaotic if you just read it as a list, right? But there is a very deliberate methodology connecting all of this.
What's the thread?
What we are looking at is the synthesis of business intelligence and digital transformation. Whether he is advising on how AI can help a farmer in rural Ghana understand soil degradation, or reviewing doctoral research in Africa, or building a gamified app to fight imposter syndrome, Simon is applying a macro-level systems thinking approach.
I've been trying to find the right analogy for this, and looking at how he operates, he's essentially functioning as a digital
A
ecologist.
digital ecologist. Okay, that's a fascinating way to frame it. Let's break down the mechanics of that analogy.
We'll think about a standard tech consultant.
Okay.
A standard consultant comes into an NGO, identifies a single problem, and plants a tree.
Yeah.
Maybe they build a new app or they launch a specific marketing campaign. They plant the tree, collect their massive fee, and they leave.
And then the tree usually dies.
Exactly. But an ecologist knows that a tree doesn't survive in a vacuum. Simon comes in and looks at the entire forest. He doesn't just look at the app, he looks at the soil, which is the grant money and the operational funding.
Yeah.
He looks at the water supply, which is the well-being of the volunteers and the community engagement. And he looks at the climate, which is the shifting geopolitical narrative and the digital algorithms.
He understands that if the overall ecosystem is toxic, the project will die, no matter how good the actual tech is.
Exact.
And understanding that ecology is more critical now than at any point in history, purely because of the extreme velocity of technological change.
Things are moving so fast.
We are in an era of rapid transition. Sustainable social impact in 2026 is no longer about having a rigid, perfectly formatted 5-year plan.
5-year plans are basically obsolete the minute you print them.
Exactly. It is all about organizational adaptability. If your ecosystem is healthy and resilient, you can adapt when the climate changes, like when a totally new AI model disrupts your entire workflow.
But if your ecosystem is brittle, you just break.
You break.
Which brings us to the culmination of all these experiences. I mean, the empathy of photography, the investigative nature of OSINT, the massive global scale of Spring ACT, the focus on mental resilience, and the strategic foresight of a digital ecologist.
It all came together.
It all merged in July 2025 in Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia.
With the founding of Soar to Live.
Exactly. Soar to Live is an audio and video media company, but its mission is absolutely laser-focused. It exists to amplify NGOs, social enterprises, founders, and changemakers through purpose-driven storytelling and digital campaigns.
It is the direct answer to that visibility crisis we talked about at the beginning of the deep dive.
Right.
And when you read their strategic pathways and their methodology, it is a deliberate structural rejection of how almost every other media agency operates today.
Okay, this is where I need you to help me translate a bit.
Sure.
Because I promised the listeners we were going to avoid corporate jargon, but the source documents use some very heavy terminology here.
They do.
They operate on something called an evolutionary growth system framework, and they use a weighted dynamic concept for decision-making.
Right.
If I'm a grassroots founder, that sounds like really expensive consultant speak. What does that actually mean in the real world?
It is a totally fair pushback.
Yeah.
Let's de-jargonize it and ground it in a really practical scenario. Let's imagine a hypothetical NGO, say, a grassroots charity, working to provide clean water infrastructure in rural Ghana.
Okay, I'm with you.
They have this brilliant new filtration system, but they have zero funding and zero visibility.
Pretty common scenario.
Very common. Now, if that NGO goes to a standard algorithm-chasing digital marketing agency, the agency will apply a static strategy. They will say, look, we need to go viral. We are going to make a highly produced, emotionally manipulative video. We're going to put trending pop music over it, and we are going to optimize it purely for clicks.
And maybe they actually get 1 million views.
Exactly. They get 1 million views. But who watched it?
Teenagers scrolling on the toilet.
Right. Teenagers scrolling on the toilet, bots,
Mm-hmm.
people who forgot about it 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
The metric looks absolutely great on a spreadsheet, but it doesn't translate to a single dollar of funding or a single strategic partnership. That is extractive, viral media.
So how does Soar to Live's evolutionary growth system and weighted dynamic concept handle that exact same water charity?
Completely differently. The weighted dynamic concept means they weight their strategy based on human impact, inclusivity, and community relevance, not algorithmic reach.
Okay, so it's a totally different metric.
Exactly. Instead of trying to reach 1 million random people, Soar to Live would craft an authentic, unpolished, deeply human audio or video campaign detailing the real struggle and the engineering triumph of that filtration system.
So they tell the real story.
Yes, and they would purposefully target an ecosystem of maybe just 5,000 people.
Mm.
But, and this is the key, those people are hydrologists, philanthropic grant makers, local government officials, and sustainability engineers.
Wow. So they sacrifice the vanity metric of going viral to build an actual functional community.
Precisely. They aren't chasing an audience. They are building a coalition.
Hmm.
And the evolutionary growth part means they don't lock that charity into a rigid 5-year PR plan.
They stay adaptable.
They use what Simon calls free-flowing implementation. The mission clean water never changes, but the methods evolve constantly based on real-world feedback, technological shifts, and the well-being of the founders. It's highly adaptive.
I love that. It really strips away the ego of media and focuses entirely on utility. But I do want to touch on how they are actually producing this stuff, because they aren't ignoring modern tech. The documents outline a very strong reliance on AI-human symbiosis.
Which is honestly the healthiest possible approach to artificial intelligence right now.
How so?
They use AI extensively for the heavy lifting workflows. So market research, content scaling, data analysis, and production efficiencies. AI is the engine room.
But not the driver.
Exactly. The steering wheel, the creative direction, the empathy, and the actual human connection remain strictly analog and human-led.
As the framework literally states, technology as an enabler, not the product.
Because in a digital landscape where generative AI can instantly create infinite amounts of perfectly optimized synthetic noise, what becomes the single most valuable resource?
Authenticity.
Yes, human-first storytelling becomes the only signal that can actually cut through the synthetic noise.
Yeah,
People are desperate for the real thing.
they really are.
Meaningful storytelling builds trust, and trust is the ultimate currency. Trust is what secures the grant. Trust is what recruits the passionate volunteer. Trust is what sustains the movement when times get hard.
Which brings us to the most practical takeaway for our listeners today. We need to talk about visibility as a catalyst for real change.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Because looking at Soar to Live's public messaging, particularly Simon's posts on LinkedIn, you see a very clear, urgent message to founders and changemakers who are currently just hiding in the shadows.
It is a very common psychological trap. Founders of social enterprises or NGOs often wait until their product is absolutely flawless or their impact report is perfectly formatted before they dare to speak publicly.
Because they're terrified of being judged.
Right, or they feel like marketing themselves is somehow arrogant or egotistical.
And Simon addresses this directly. He argues that staying silent is actually a massive strategic risk. There's a brilliant quote from his Strategic Pathways. If you don't define your mission and vision, the market will define it for you.
It is a profound truth. Perfectionism in the impact space is usually just fear wearing a professional suit.
Oh, that's good.
When you stay quiet, you create a vacuum. And in the digital age, vacuums are usually filled by bad actors or massive corporations who are more than happy to just co-opt your narrative.
He makes this brilliant point that you aren't supposed to be speaking to the whole world anyway. If you are terrified of some stranger leaving a mean comment, you are fundamentally misunderstanding the assignment.
Exactly.
You are speaking to the early believers. You are speaking to the problem solvers who are lying awake at night stressing about the exact issue you are trying to fix.
Right, the people who need to hear it.
You are speaking to the future talent, the brilliant engineer or the passionate coordinator who is going to choose to work with your underfunded NGO instead of a massive tech company, specifically because they align with your why.
If we connect this back to the macro level, it explains why visibility is an absolute necessity. It is the engine of opportunity. An NGO cannot attract critical funding if the funders don't know they exist. They cannot forge strategic partnerships with local governments if the government doesn't see their impact. Amplifying a social enterprise through strategic, human-centered storytelling isn't an act of vanity. It isn't ego.
It's an act of stewardship.
Yes, you owe it to your cause and to the people you were trying to help to be visible.
And I love how he grounds the reality of this journey. In one of the LinkedIn posts we reviewed, he talks about what actually keeps founders going when the funding dries up, the algorithms change, and everything just feels impossible.
And he doesn't use any of that toxic hustle culture stuff, right?
He completely ignores the hustle and grind culture. He doesn't say you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and take an ice bath.
Thank goodness.
Right. Instead, he says resilience comes down to deep-rooted purpose. It comes from recognizing the real-world ripple effect of your impact and having authentic human connections so you know you aren't carrying the burden alone.
It replaces the performative, exhausting startup culture with something actually grounded, sustainable, and emotionally intelligent.
It really does.
And it forces you to wonder, how many miraculous solutions to global problems are currently just sitting in silence?
Oh, man.
How many brilliant interventions, community programs, or environmental solutions are invisible right now simply because the creators are overwhelmed by the digital noise.
They just don't know how to tell their story without feeling like they are selling their soul to the viral machine.
That is a genuinely haunting thought. That the solution is there, but the visibility crisis is keeping it hidden.
But that ultimately is exactly why Soar to Live was created. It provides a dignified, purpose-driven sanctuary for those stories. It tells the changemaker, you don't have to dance for the algorithm.
Right.
You don't have to compromise your integrity. You just have to tell your true story, and we will build the ecosystem to amplify it.
It is a fundamental rewiring of how media can function in society.
It really is. And as we synthesize all of this, looking at the entire arc of Simon Sundaraj-Kuhn's life and career, you see this unbroken visionary thread.
From the very beginning.
Yeah. From the intense micro-level empathy required to navigate a grieving family as a photographer to the macro-level systems thinking required to coordinate a global AI platform saving domestic violence survivors. It all leads here.
He has taken a lifetime of deeply observing the human condition and built Soar to Live as a vehicle to protect and elevate it.
Exactly. It proves that technology, even rapidly advancing AI, can and must be used to support humanity, not replace it. And it proves that authentic stories are the actual building blocks of empathy and real-world change.
I want to leave everyone listening with a really provocative thought, something to chew on based on everything we've unpacked today.
Go for it.
The next time you open your phone and start scrolling through your feed, just stop for a second. Look at the content in front of you and ask yourself a critical question. Is this piece of media extracting my attention and draining my energy, or is it depositing tangible value into my mind and my community?
That's a powerful question.
What would actually happen to our society, to our mental health, our politics, our social impact, if we collectively decided to only give our precious time to the stories that build us up, rather than the algorithms that distract and divide us?
That is the exact question we all need to be asking, and I want to speak directly to you right now listening to this.
Yeah.
If you are a founder, if you run an NGO, if you are a social enterprise leader or a change maker who is doing the exhausting heavy lifting behind the scenes, but you are just hitting a brick wall with visibility.
If you are struggling with audience engagement.
Right, and you don't know how to connect your community to your story without getting completely lost in the digital noise.
Stop waiting for the perfect moment.
Exactly. Stop waiting. Cut the fluff. Be direct about your growing pains and your needs. Go to LinkedIn right now and send a direct message to the Soar to Love company page.
Reach out and collaborate with them.
Share your impact stories. Let them help you amplify your campaigns and build the meaningful, authentic conversations that will actually move the needle for your mission.
Your mission is too important, and your voice matters far too much to remain silent in the storm.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Soar to Live.
Amplifying voices that matter.
Purpose, storytelling, impact.